Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you, staggering to the microphone, as it were, after took some body blows this week. Did we not? Still standing, also standing, sitting in his podcasting chair. Same thing. I tell you, Gingers must take a punch just better than the rest of us because he looks no worse for the wear. Jeremy Cohen. Hello, sir.
Hey, yeah, no, we definitely do. I mean, there was a kick a ginger holiday, so the attacks I'm used to, not just the verbal ones growing up, of course, but the physicals. Oh, well, I mean, it didn't actually happen, at least not to me personally, but yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So I feel like when's the last time we had a podcast where we came on here and it was like really, before I even ask that question, is this a dour podcast?
It's funny that you use the word dour because I had use the same word in my mind earlier, thinking like, why is it that when we come onto a podcast, it seems like every single time it's a dour note that we are talking about? Because of course we had the first week, right. It was great. And then they lost and we had to re-record that. And then the second week things seemed better. And then the third week things are not as great. And now
wait, what do you mean the first week it seemed great?
The Knicks were up 2-0, and then we recorded a podcast.
Oh yeah, we recorded.
And then the Magic beat the Knicks.
So the podcast that didn't get released was the one happy podcast.
Well, the second week was better, but it wasn't great. But the most optimistic podcast was the one after a 2-0 start, and then things fell to earth a little bit more. And now it just doesn't stop. Keeps going.
It doesn't stop. This is going to be an interesting one because I feel like with this fan, we'll go through the week in review. We'll do some true false about whether or not there's the stuff that's flying around is overreaction, underreaction, whatever you want to call it. But it's just, it's always interesting to do really anything with this fan base. And this is a compliment because we think about this stuff so much. And we go to one extreme, and then there's a reaction to the initial extreme reaction, and then there's a pushback to that reaction. And by the time you get past all of that, to arrive at the truth of like, okay, it's a 7-6 team who has, I think, almost within like 10 points of having a dead even net rating. They've scored about as many points as they've allowed this season. Like they are the textbook definition of an average team. Does that warrant the sky falling through 13 games? I'm not sure. So for me, when I look at myself, I'm like, why am I so pissed off? Not pissed off. Pissed off is probably the wrong word. So worried. So whatever about this team. I think it's because I still have the thinking in my mind from the last year, from the last 20 years, whatever you want to say, however long Knicks fan PTSD goes back, of like, does the other shoe drop, and is this a 34-win team when we're looking back on it in April? And I think that's why I'm like, otherwise, I don't even know that I care that much about what's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about the Knicks, right?
Oh boy.
Well, no,
there's only one.
I'm trying to take a step back and view and consider everything here.
Please do.
We as fans are naturally optimistic because of a lot of pessimism, but I think fans in general can be optimistic. Even if your team were good, you could be more optimistic there. Last year, Vegas really screwed up, right? They thought the Knicks were going to be a terrible team, and it turns out the Knicks weren't a terrible team. They were not a good team around, until Derrick Rose came about and everything went up from there. So that was an in-season addition that Vegas wasn't predicting. But even still, the Knicks were a better team than Vegas initially thought.
Yeah.
The line going into this year, the starting point was what, 41.5?
41.5. So Vegas thought this year they would be an average team.
Right. And so that's kind of the thought process where I know that a lot of us looked on paper and thought that this team is better than that, and it still could be. The season is still young.
Oh yeah, I don't want. Let me.
I know you're not saying
we're going to go through a lot of stuff today, in which we're like, right. I'm not trying to come on here and be like, this is what is going to be. I'm just talking about the fear in my mind.
Of course, 100%. I guess the way of kind of putting it is the results are there, but then like for me, this past Hornets game was the most frustrating loss of the season. And I'm trying not to be a prisoner of the moment. And I know that's very possible as of where things stand, but I think the reason why it was the most concerning for me is that you could find silver linings in a lot of other games, right?
Sure.
And you could still find silver linings here. It wasn't like there was this ridiculous beatdown, but I think when there's a win, things are great. When there's a loss, it's like, great. All right. RJ is doing this, or the young players are doing that, or Julius is showing signs of this. And
there were some players who did some things, which we'll talk about
exactly
in that game.
But that's the thing. It's like you jump out to this early lead and things are great. And the second unit, then you're hoping that they do what they need to do. And they didn't. And then they start inching back. And then the starting unit.
Well, they didn't give away the lead, in fairness.
They didn't. But what I'm saying is that was their moment. I thought the first moment of the year, maybe second, if you talk about the first Orlando game.
I was about to say
that was the moment where they could have just stepped on Charlotte's necks and it would have been over. But unfortunately, they didn't. They didn't play that level where the game soon became far more out of reach than it could have been. And then the starters didn't do their job. And then the fourth quarter, again, is the reserves trying to claw their way back. And it was close enough. And then, a game after, Tibbs sticks with the second unit throughout the entire fourth. He switches things up and he then brings the starters back in for the most part. And unfortunately, in both games, the Knicks lost. But that's the thing where the fact that they could only score 62 points in the final three quarters against the 28th ranked defense at the time and the Hornets, that once again, for the second straight game, there is one starter who is scoring in bunches, and then everyone else is just not doing anything significant. Like that's where it gets certainly concerning, to the point where it's like, yeah, you could look at it being 7-6, but I think that there are, and I try to be as evenly keeled as possible. You know this, but it's hard for me to walk away and not feel like there are signs of greater issues here and not necessarily knowing how they can solve this.
Okay. You gave me a lot there. So let me take it one step at a time. I think my first reaction is, in terms of the game itself, I don't feel like it was on the second unit where they didn't put that game away. I went back and rewatched for Monday's newsletter pretty much the entire first half of the game. And while the second unit definitely left a little bit of meat on the bone, the first unit, I thought in the beginning of the game first of all, they started incredibly slow over the first 2 minutes, and then Kemba got going. And then there were other opportunities, specifically on defense, to really, if the starters had played up to their capabilities. I'm not sure we've seen the starters play up to their capabilities on defense yet this year. I don't know what that is even. I don't even know what that looks like. I think they could have gotten out to a 20-point lead before the subs ever stepped foot in the game. That's one thing. Two, just in terms of being the most down about this game, I am both more uplifted by this game than any they've played so far, and more down than any they've played so far. And it's for the same reason. And it's because I think we saw the answer, and maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with game ball, but I think we saw the answer to a lot of the Knicks' problems, and it's like they found the answer, and then they're like, we're going to go away from it. And I'll save that more extended thought for when we give out our game ball.
I do just want to be clear. I'm not blaming the second unit.
Yeah, no, I know that.
In the Charlotte game, at least the first half, certainly. It's more that it was a shame, because if they had played up to the level we know that they can, then I feel like we're talking about a 2-1 week. And
but there's a different spin. There's a different spin on everything right now, and they had opportunities to win that game late. And then just the last thing I'll say in terms of like takeaways that we could take from every game, we could legitimately say that there have been games, and I don't know, maybe this is true of every team in the NBA, but we could say that there have been games along the way through 13 games, right, where I'm going to say 5 different players, you looked at their game and you're like, oh, that guy must be an NBA All-Star. Evan Fournier in the first game, Derrick Rose, I don't know, pick your game. Julius Randle has had at least one or two. I mean, the fourth quarter in Philly probably put him over the top, but he's had probably one or two other games. RJ during that stretch. And then against Charlotte, Kemba Walker finally showed up. And if you know what, you could probably throw Emmanuel quickly in there. Maybe not all-star, but like he's looked like, oh, is that guy going to win the 6th Man of the Year award this year? Maybe. Like that's what he's looked like over the last week and a half. So like it's been there in pieces, and yet they seem so far away from putting the puzzle together right now. There doesn't seem to be any semblance of a like, oh, they're right there. No, they don't seem like they're right there. They seem like I'm not even sure where I think they may know where there is, but in any case. All right. So week in review, we kind of got ahead of ourselves. So this week alone, the Knicks are 1-2. They beat an undermanned Philadelphia team in Philly coming off a second night of back-to-back. And then lost to Milwaukee and obviously the Charlotte game we're talking about. In total, since their 5-1 start, they have gone 2-5. And I just looked it up before. Over their last, I think it's 7 games, they have a negative 5.4 net rating, which is the 22nd ranked number in the NBA. So they were a top 5 team for about a week and a half, and they've been a bottom 10 team since then. I mean, I think looking at the team now, and before we go ahead and we give our game balls for the week, and I'm just, I don't know how else to talk about it without just saying, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but like we saw a team run its offense through, apologies, Andrew. We saw a team run its offense through Kemba Walker in Charlotte. And I've spent the entire weekend thinking about and, watching the film on like how much of that was just Kemba Walker like hitting shots that we may not necessarily be able to count on him hitting moving forward. And how much of that was, oh shit, if you run the offense through a point guard who could still strike fear into the hearts of your opponent, that's a lot. That makes a lot more sense than running your offense through a power forward who is not hitting all of the tough shots that he was hitting last season. And as I move forward, as I'm thinking about this team, and Derrick Rose is very much part of this conversation as well, it's like they got 48 minutes of point guard play in them. And I think the version of Kemba that we saw in Charlotte, give him the ball, let him cook. I still think that's the version you're going to get most nights, because we go back to how he ended the season last year in Boston when he had the ball a lot, when Jaylen Brown was out for some of that time. And he's like, okay, I got to put it on my shoulders. Like we saw he averaged 30 points a game for whatever it was, a 4 or 5 game stretch. Like he can do it. And then that leaves me wondering, okay, well, where does that leave Julius? And can Julius be second in line? Does Julius want to be second in line? And this is where we get into the part of it that's like, it depresses me, because it seemed like after they got out to that lead and the starters came back in the second quarter, it's like Julius, I went back and look, you want to know, over the 13-minute stretch when they went from being up by, I don't know, they were up by like 14 to being down by like 11 or 12, 13-minute stretch. You want to know how many times Julius Randle shot in that 13-minute stretch?
Well, he was pretty passive in that game.
And he started being passive in the beginning. He was passive.
Yes, he was, because he got his first basket late in the second half, right? Or late in the first half, excuse me. I'm going to say he took 8 shots.
Took 13 shots in 13 minutes plus 3 turnovers.
And he took 15 in the game.
He took 15 shots in the game. Yeah. He was 4 for 15.
Yeah, that's not good. And
then he didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter. He had one offensive foul turnover. So it's like started out passive. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he was begrudgingly passive, because again, they came out of the gate. They weren't featuring Kemba right away in the homecoming game, the whole thing. Like they were going to Julius. Didn't work a few times. Then Kemba got cooking, and like Julius was deferring. And then at the very end of the first quarter, like he was doing his Julius thing, drawing doubles and like making the pass, took one tough shot. But it's like when the second quarter continued, the starters came back in. It just seemed like Julius was like, okay, it's my turn to cook now. And this is really all just all of these concerns would go away if Julius was just hitting the tough shots that he was hitting last year, but he's not anymore. So where's the leash? How long is it? Especially when you have, again, Kemba Walker here, Derrick Rose here now the whole season. Not to mention Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett. Hopefully he gets out of whatever the hell funk he's in. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at mentally with this team after the week that we just had.
Agreed. I think that's probably a good transition for the first segment, I guess, of what we want to do in terms of a true or false situation where it's overreactions and us saying whether they're true or whether they're false.
All right. But, first one, you want to read it?
Sure. The first one is that the Knicks were wrong to trade their top 5 defense for a top 5 offense. So I've actually thought about this quite a bit. I'm going to say false. The Knicks weren't wrong to do that. I don't think the problem is necessarily like, hey, we're going to focus so much on offense that we neglect the defense. What I've been thinking about is, like when I'm sure you've also seen it as well, but comments about Elfrid Payton, Reggie Bullock, and these things. And it's just, I can't. Right. People have very short memories, it seems, because I remember watching that Hawks series and Elfrid Payton was so garbage that Derrick Rose had to play more minutes, which then hurt the second unit as well. And Reggie Bullock, he is a great spot up shooter, can't put the ball in his hands at all. I mean, like if you told him to make a play, then he would set the ball down, go to a typewriter and start writing something to go off Broadway. That is like who he is. And but here's the thing, right? I think Reggie Bullock as a defender is certainly solid, 100%. But I don't think the Knicks miss Reggie Bullock's defense. What I think the Knicks miss, and I apologize if anyone has said this and I just haven't heard it or seen it. I think the Knicks they're drastically missing a defensive quarterback. Like the one thing about Bullock was it always felt like
in the starting unit.
Yeah, in the starting unit. He was the guy who was leading the team in terms of quarterbacking, positions, keeping players accountable, right? Because what was that starting lineup? It was Elfrid Payton being passive. It was RJ being a good defender, but a young player. It was Randall, who was on his game. He was fantastic defensively last year. And Mitchell Robinson, who then was out, and then Nerlens Noel.
Yep.
Bullock was so vocal, and it always felt like guys were on the same page. And I think that's what the Knicks are sorely missing. And when you look at this starting lineup, you've got Kemba, who's not known as a defensive presence. You've got Evan, who tries, but he's not necessarily going to be the guy who is, a plus defender who will also call you out. You got RJ, who's been struggling terribly off ball this season. His on ball has recently not been great.
I was about to say he allowed a few to LaMelo that were not what you want.
Gordon Hayward, it was awful. There were like 4 straight possessions where he was just garbage. Same thing, Randall. If you are not going to look the part and you're not going to act the part, then everything else crumbles around you, right? Like it's the sort of thing. And I know that you obviously have legal experience, but when there's the jury,
so much.
Right. But let me ask you this, because I think I know the answer, but I'd like you to confirm it if possible.
Please.
When the jury sees, let's say the prosecution's facial reactions, or maybe it's one other, it could be the defense side. When one of those groups or attorneys is crestfallen, if they show a sign of weakness, the jury picks up on that and instantly says like, wow, we smell blood in the water.
Well, you're not supposed to do that.
Right. Exactly.
You always you get in law school when I was doing trial ad, you got taught, don't show your reaction. Right.
And that's the problem. Julius shows his reaction and there's no one there.
His body language has been sucking.
Right. And there's no, and Mitch, again, Mitch is not going to be the leader. I think he can be more of he's like a quiet type on the court. It seems he knows what to do, but he's not going to necessarily be vocal and calling these people out. And I'm not saying that, leadership comes in all shapes and sizes, right? You don't need to necessarily be a vocal leader to be successful, but it seemed like that's something the Knicks really succeeded with last year with the starting lineup, which that they had accountability, and no one is keeping the starting unit accountable. And I look at the second unit and who is on there, right? It's Derrick Rose, who has been this sage guiding player for so many. It's Taj fucking Gibson.
But they keep each other accountable on the second unit.
That's the thing. That's it. There is a buy-in and a responsibility for everyone. And for the starting unit, it feels like no one gives a shit enough to say, hey, this is what we need to do. And it feels like if there were someone, that everyone else just takes it personally or tries to blame someone else. And that's the problem. This starting unit needs to figure out a way to rally around each other defensively. If it's the worst defensive lineup that we've seen in NBA history, if the season ended today, then that's a big problem. And the point here is that no one can help the starting unit, right? Like we can talk about mixing and matching, like it's fucking Johnson and Johnson and Moderna shots. But here's the truth. The Knicks aren't going to do it, to my belief, because if they stuck with Elfrid Payton for that long, Tibbs isn't going to necessarily do it. If they believe in the second unit being as good as it is, then altering someone, elevating someone and, to the first unit and bringing someone back into the second. It could create problems for both of them. It's not like a quick, easy fix where they come average to each other.
You got one thing that's working brilliantly right now. And the reason why this is an overreaction is because, again, Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, wonderful players. We love them. Derrick Rose, we've described his defense as god-awful at times over the years, especially his first stint in New York. Emmanuel Quickley is a 6'0" guard. He was 6'2", but he's not physically imposing. Obi Toppin theoretically wasn't the first pick because of his defense. And Alec Burks is a maybe serviceable defender. That's what he's thought of around the league. Great. Yeah. Those four players this year in 112 minutes together have a 94.9 defensive rating, which would be first in basketball by a mile.
Because they buy in, and it's not just because they're playing inferior opponents, right? Because not all of these teams think like Tibbs, where it's, hey, let's have a first unit and a second unit. They have
it's 112 minute sample size. At that number is meaningful. This has nothing to do with Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock. These are deeper issues where things are seeping over from the offensive end of the floor. Yeah. So I don't want to hear it. It's an overreaction. It's not a good one.
I do also just want to say, I think that the idea as well of changing, like we want control over the situation, right? We want to know that as fans, we voice our opinions because then it feels like we have responsibility when it's situations where we have no control over it. And it's a sort of thing where if you wanted to make a change, the only thing I could think of that's had a drastically positive effect, but it's a small sample size, is if you had three starters, Fournier, RJ, and Randall, who, by the way, none of them is going to be moved out of the starting lineup to begin with. But then if you had those three and Rose and Taj, that is I think it was like a plus 77 on cleaning the glass differential, which is great, but it's a small sample size and the Knicks aren't going to do it. And if you're thinking, hey, what can the Knicks do at the deadline or when, the Knicks can't do anything for the next month anyway. There are these trade restrictions until December 15th. They have to figure it out internally. Yes. And I think they're just going to keep things the way it is because they still want to create some sort of chemistry. And then if it's like, 3 weeks in from now where everything's still a disaster, that's probably when Tibbs thinks, all right, what do I do here? Because we can't just stick with what we've got because it's
yeah, but you heard his quote after the the Milwaukee game, the profanity laced quote, according to Mark Berman, where it was 20 games, 30 games, 40 games, it's a bunch of bullshit. I agree with him to a certain extent. At the same time, the NBA historian in me will always remember the 2010-11 Miami Heat's 9-8 start. It's arguably the greatest team that has been assembled, or second greatest team has been assembled over the last 20 years. After the Warriors, they needed a month and change to figure it out. And then I looked it up today. They ripped off 21 out of 22. So they figured it out. I don't think we're getting to that point. However, the fact that they are figuring out whose offense this is, and that figuring out process has seeped into their defense, I don't think that should have been unexpected. Next overreaction. I hope we can get through this quick. The Knicks are allowing too many open threes. Again, I could cite for you this number I just did about what the backups are giving up in terms of defensive rating. They play the same scheme. It's the exact same scheme. They change nothing. If anything, they trap a little bit more, which would be a way to allow more open threes because if someone makes the pass or whatever, you're going to have somebody open. But that's not it. That's not it. We see what this scheme could do if guys are playing like their pants are on fire. And we see it with the backups. We've seen it in fits and starts with the starters, but not enough. So I think that's an overreaction. I hope you agree with me.
I do, but the Knicks are 29th in terms of the most threes per game that they've let up.
And they were 30th last year, or whatever they were, 29th.
They were, but the difference, of course, this year is that they're 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25. They're 24th in terms of
percentage.
Accuracy.
Yes,
accuracy. Right, for what teams are scoring against them.
But that because they're not getting out of guys.
Right, 100%. So, again, it is the same scheme pretty much. That's the thing, though. It's players are hitting their shots. That's really different. And the other thing, yes, we could talk about the defense still being bad, even if the Knicks offense were better. But if the Knicks offense were improving the way that it should be, then we're talking less about the defense being it would still be a problem, but it's not like it's as big of a deal because, hey, at least the offense is scoring. You're fighting fire with fire. Now it just feels like, oh crap, teams are hitting threes. It's a problem. The Hornets didn't do well from three. They were terrible, especially through the first. No. I think they were 5 of 20 at some point through the third quarter, and it didn't matter. They still figured out ways to do it. So it's like if they're shooting well, then it's a different game. And they being, Charlotte, in the sense of they blow it out. It's worse than what it was. But that's the thing. Like the Knicks have to do better offensively, and they're not doing that. Yes, do they need to do better on defense? Sure, but they're betting on guys to miss. Last year it worked. This year it's not working as well.
And again, I'm sure there's a movie comparison here with like a mob movie or something. Last year, opponents were never comfortable because they were always looking over their shoulder. They're like, "Oh, yeah, it's the movie I'm thinking of, Heat." What do you do when the Heat's coming around the corner? Opponents always felt like the Heat was coming around the corner, and nobody, I think, took a comfortable three, even if it was technically an open three against the Knicks last year, because you felt like someone was going to fly at you sooner rather than later. This year, opponents know, especially against the starters, you could get those shots, which is a good transition because this is a guy that has left some shooters open because he's hanging out in the paint. Tibbs needs to find more minutes for Obi Toppin, even if it means at the expense of Julius Randle. So I'm not going to, I kind of preface this before with what I was saying about whose offense is this and like where do they go. If Julius Randle is not going to hit tough shots, which he did last year, and so it made him an all-star last year, and you're basically relying on Julius to draw doubles and make the pass, that is a path to a clunky offense. And we've seen it be clunky this year. So the solution is either lessen that stuff. Either Julius gets better and he just starts hitting tough shots again, which I'd love to see that. You change how the offense runs, and maybe you don't run it through Julius as much, or you limit. Maybe you give Julius an opportunity, early in the clock, or he's your late clock guy or whatever. And then you let Kemba or Rose run it. And this is a long-winded way of saying, if you get to the point where the offense is not running through Julius Randle primarily, and it is running through Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose, well, then does that not open up the door for more Obi Toppin minutes? And shouldn't he get those minutes? Because there are things that Obi Toppin is better at basketball today than Julius Randle. Not a lot of things, but just in terms of like being able to finish, being able to elevate, flying around on defense. I think he's actually the better defensive player right now. And I say that with some trepidation because he does still get beat and he does still make the mistakes young players make, but he makes up for it with the activity and the energy and like getting in passing lanes and like all the flying in transition. So long-winded way of saying, yeah, I think they do need to find more minutes for Obi Toppin. I don't think this is an overreaction.
No, I don't think it is either. But going into the season, I wanted him to play 15 to 16. I'm pretty sure I think it might have said 15 because you had said 18 in your newsletter. And he's right now at 14.8.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing. That 14.8 is misleading because it would imply that it's like, oh, he's playing 13 and then 16. And it's not. It's like, 9 game. And then the starting unit's so bad that Obi now is playing entire fourth quarters or almost entire fourth quarters. And that's the thing. I know that Tibbs is going to go by feel, but to me, it feels like something that's a little bit more consistent might be a little bit better than, like, I'll yank you after 5 minutes and then I'll put you back in at the beginning of the fourth quarter or the very end of the third. And we'll see where you go from there. And then we'll bring Julius back in. I just think there needs to be more consistency in terms of the allocation of the minutes. But like the thing about Obi is that he doesn't take over the game, but by doing less, he does more. And with Randall, more is now becoming less. So that's the thing where Obi looks a lot better because Randall looks worse. But if we're talking about playing with the hot hand, then you'd want to sub Obi. And however, this is a league run by stars. Julius Randall still is a star, whatever level you want to categorize him of a star. That's completely up to you. But he's a star.
You're top 10 MVP. You're a star.
Right. And so how you are able to put that together and work within the functionality of the offense and what you're doing with that starting unit. Again, I think it's not necessarily like subbing Randall out and Obi in with that starting unit. I think it's just maybe playing the second unit more if you are not going to kind of swap players in and out like we may want, but Tibbs doesn't necessarily do as much as we may want him to.
You know what's funny about this? The way you just phrased it is a longer way of saying right now Obi's just the better guy without the ball. And typically when you talk about that in this league, it means a guy who's a threat from deep. Obi Toppin hasn't hit a 3-pointer since the second game of the season. Yeah. He has missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 straight 3-pointers. Even so, when you talk about who's more valuable on offense without the ball in their hands, it's Obi Toppin, and it's not close right now. And on defense, again, even with the occasional mistakes, and he's not as good a rebounder as Julius Randle, Obi Toppin's a better player right now. So it really does come down to, well, how much value are you getting from Julius Randle when he has the ball? And right now, I'm not saying it can't change. I'm not saying they even shouldn't give it a little bit more time. But right now, that value is not where you want it to be. Okay, 3 more overreactions. Next one, I hope to God we could dispense with this quickly. Kemba is washed. To me, what we saw in Charlotte was not just like, oh, he's playing in a familiar court. He's feeling it. Like it was, this is what this guy could still be if you put the ball in his hands and you say, okay, run our offense. And here's the thing. It wasn't just scoring. He made some beautiful passes that like Derrick Rose probably makes, but like there's no one else on the Knicks, obviously, who makes those passes. Like that could still be really productive and fruitful. And he's not washed. He's not. We may have thought he was washed. He's not washed.
He's not washed. He's incapacitated. Like, here's the thing. Okay. I'm not trying to play the semantics game. I think that when I think of washed, I think of someone who's like, they just belong, like they're out of the league. And that's not Kemba, period. Kemba does belong. The problem is that, well, I think there are a few problems. But I think that the perception of what Kemba is very different. Like, because when we think of Kemba, we're thinking like, someone who's a former all-star, and look at him now. But the reality is that he's earning a quarter of what he would have made with the Thunder or Boston or whatever you want to say if he weren't bought out. Does that mean he's a quarter of the player that, he was or whatever? No, it doesn't. But it's the sort of thing where you have to go into this season with the expectation that Kemba still has something in the tank, but there's a reason why he was bought out from this contract. It's because of the fact that no one wanted him on that deal. And the Knicks really want someone who can basically pull up from three, who can drive, and who can finish. He's a terrible finisher. He's always been a bad finisher. Last year was the only year he was a good finisher.
Yeah, he's not been a good finisher.
Right. The driving part. He drove 10 times a game last season. That's a good percentage. That's like the Knicks were top 10 in drives per game as a team. I think they're 10th for the first time in ages because they finally said, hey, let's get someone who can penetrate the defense and do something with it. Well, Kemba's driving about 7 times a game now. And the thing is that when he drives, like we said, he doesn't finish and he's too passive. He passes far too much.
He's passing a ton.
Yeah. Right. And like there was that miscommunication with Mitch. Could it be a miscommunication? Yes. But I think it's also a deeper rooted problem, which is that Kemba just doesn't feel good about finishing. And so he dishes when he can. And it's like, okay, well, I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Should Mitch have maybe been expecting it more? Sure. But again, the bigger problem is that Kemba, when he goes downhill, he gets rid of the ball instead of trying to score. And then there's the pull-up three. He's doing that well. The question is then, like, if that doesn't stay, what value is he bringing? Because we know it's on the defensive side. So
no, I know.
It's basically him going downhill is the best way to start making things happen. And we started to see that a bit with the Hornets game. It was nice to see him. It felt like he had fresh legs. Because to me, the thing with Kemba is the Band-Aid solution, right? It's always, for me, it's always been, even though he signed for 2 years, it's been like, okay, get through this year.
It's back
and then
this
you
year.
reevaluate.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's
well,
you have to look at it as a 1 year stopgap. And I still maintain that, and I'll get into it actually a little bit later because there's another question that's going to come up. But Kemba really was the type of player for why the Knicks needed him, and especially for that value.
I still love the value. What I will just say about he's tied for 11th right now among 111 players who have taken at least 50 3-point attempts. He's at 43.1%, which is tied for 11th in the league in terms of accuracy. And he has taken way more off the dribble threes than a bunch of the guys that are ahead of him. By the way, congratulations to Carmelo Anthony. He was first on that list. Anyway, I think we saw he had a floater less against the Hornets. He had a couple other drives where things happened off of the drive. We've seen players change who they are as a basketball player midway through their career before. Like Vince Carter is the first name that comes to mind, but like Jason Kidd,
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. Like, I mean, when you're talented enough and you want to stay in the league and you want to be like, as you said, he always struggled, but he broke down guys so easily. He got there so often. The volume of the shots that he took around the rim made up for some of the fact that he was not as great there. I still think there's a world where he's good enough. And again, you're asking for 22, 24 minutes a game from this guy, in which he's perhaps running the offense for maybe half the time he's in the game. Maybe a little bit more. I think he can still do it. Okay. A couple more reactions and then we're going to our game balls. The Knicks should have signed DeMar DeRozan over Evan Fournier. What DeMar get? 27 a year?
It was somewhere. I think he got 3 years, 85 million. So yeah, about 27.
I think Andrew thanks, Andrew. I think he put this in there to fuck with me. So look, the Bulls are really good and they're going to be hurt for them all year. And I think they did a really good job putting that team together. They defend. Again, defense does not come down to the players on your team. It comes down to scheme, effort, all the things. Oh, God. This is tough because I love DeRozan and I always loved DeRozan. And I made that very clear all of last year when I told anybody willing to listen, like the Knicks should get a good basketball player if they could get him at the right price. I think it's an overpay. And I think the third guaranteed year is a potentially significant thing, depending on what the Knicks wind up doing in the years to come. And that's not a conversation for today. But like, do I necessarily think DeRozan would fix what ails this team? I honestly don't know. I'm throwing out my hands. The obvious answer is yes, but I don't know. So
here's the thing with DeRozan. And I guess when I talk about DeRozan, let me take a step back and say the Knicks. Going into this offseason, we didn't really know what the Knicks liked in terms of, especially on the offensive end.
Sure.
Now we do. What we know is that the Knicks really love guys who can pull up from three, as I mentioned with Kemba, and do it at a high clip with a larger sample size. So, for example, when it comes to last season, there were 61 players who took at least 100 pull-up threes. Fournier finished 6th in percentage. Randall 9th. Walker 32nd. Quickly, 38th. The year before that, 64 players. Burks, 6th. And also, by the way, Burks didn't qualify last season for 100, but he was up there. He was like 42% awesome. Or something from there. Marcus Morris. I mean, he's not on the Knicks now, but he was 11th. And there was a reason why he took off. It's because he was unbelievable pulling up from 3. Fournier was 16th. Walker was 18th. So there's a reason why the Knicks also went after Grimes and McBride, 2 players who we know were very good pull-up shooters in college. Yeah. They encouraged RJ to do more pull-up shooting, and he hasn't been great at it, but he has been trying to do it, which is important. They don't care about the 5 in terms of pulling up, although I'm sure some players, out there, maybe there's some level of interest. But the reason I'm saying
I can think of one.
Yes. But not him. Please not him. But the point I'm going with here.
What's their record now?
Bad. It's bad. And he did not do well last night as well. So,
I saw they got smoked. I did not look at his stat line in particular. We should probably just say we're talking about Karl Anthony Towns.
Yes, we are. Really not a good performance at all. But the point I'm trying to make here is that DeMar DeRozan doesn't take pull-up threes. That's just not his style. The Knicks clearly wanted someone who is not going to be as high of a usage player. And when you think about how we're talking about Randall, right? And him not getting his way with the ball. And we're talking about Kemba Walker. Imagine now adding DeMar DeRozan. And by the way, there's also RJ Barrett who we're trying to figure out.
I know.
It's just, there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen. It's not to say DeMar DeRozan is a bad player. He's not.
He's a really good player.
He's a really good player. But here's the other thing to consider. And Cleaning the Glass did a great job of illustrating this. So they have efficiency differential. Okay, I was right.
Yes.
My mind was right the first time. And basically, it's when it's team points scored per 100 possessions minus team points allowed per 100 possessions. So when it comes to DeMar DeRozan, his first 2 years in the league, he was in the negative 5.3, negative 1.5. The following year's third year, he was positive 4.4. Every single season after that, he was a negative.
Yep.
Every one.
What about this year?
Most recently, last year, he was negative 4.8. The year before that, negative 4.4. The year before that, negative 5.3.
Okay.
Might have been. Sure. But still, not great stuff. And again, it's not all him.
And what is he this year?
But there's a reason why he was not considered, a great player, a regular season guy. This year, so far, he is a positive 20.3. So again, he's having a phenomenal season, and the Bulls are doing really well, proving me wrong. Another thing, Lonzo Ball. In fact, this is a different conversation if you wanted it. It shouldn't be should the Knicks have paid DeMar DeRozan instead of Evan Fournier. It should the Knicks have gone after Lonzo Ball over Evan Fournier. But here's the thing.
Lonzo Ball.
He's not a point guard. We've gone down this road. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the reason I'm saying this is because when I talked about that list of players with 100 pull-up threes, of the 61 last season, Lonzo was 49th. The year before, of the 64, Lonzo was 46th. Mm-hmm. He's red hot right now from pulling up.
He is.
Will it continue? I don't know. Maybe it does. But this is a huge step forward, or it's an anomaly. It's one of the two, and it's something to monitor. But that's the big thing here. It's more of like, we know what the Knicks like. We know that DeMar DeRozan is not that. And whether you agree or disagree with the Knicks philosophy is a different story.
Yeah.
But considering what they like, Fournier fits in seamlessly. Can
I just be very clear? I'm not going to lose 1 ounce of sleep over the fact that they didn't sign DeMar DeRozan and they signed Evan Fournier, because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't fucking matter. This is 2 different paths, neither of which make you a contender, and both of which leave you somewhere below contender status, but make you a better team. I still think Evan Fournier is worth the contract they gave him. Most importantly, and by far most importantly, I should say, it's still a tradable contract because it's only 3 years. The last year is not guaranteed. He has not looked great of late. He will look better. It will look better with him. That this is not like, even with DeMar DeRozan, the Knicks, we're not talking about a team that would be fucking 10-3 right now. The
only thing that list for the last 2 years tells me is that Evan Fournier is a better player than this, and I expect him to, rebound, no pun intended, and be a better shooter. That's that's the thing. They are going through
a big adjustment, and it is adjustment with personnel. It is adjustment with players who are used to having the ball, and it is an adjustment with the best player on the team not looking like he's the best player on any team right now because he's not hitting shots. At the end of the day, we could talk until we're blue in the face about this, that, and the other. And it comes down to the fact that Julius Randle is hitting fucking 25% of his long twos. That's the difference. If you want to know what the difference, because guess what? If he was hitting 45% like last year, it's drawing all those attention. Other guys get open, and all of a sudden, Julius isn't dribbling into nothing. He's dribbling into doubles, and the Knicks offense looks a lot better. We're not getting that right now, and they're fumbling their way in the dark. Anyway, okay, last overreaction, and then game ball and detention. The Knicks are at best a play-in team. Take a quick look at the standings here.
You don't need to. It's fine that you are, but you don't need to. Really,
I want to look at the standings. You have an answer?
Sure, I'll give an answer. Listen, last year the Knicks it was a miraculous season. They finished 4th. How many people would have thought they would have finished above 12th, right?
I know.
They were also 1 game away from finishing 6th, which is a stone's throw away from 7th. And that's play-in territory. So are the Knicks...
Yeah, but the question is at best.
Right, and they're not at best. At best, they are a better team than that. But more realistically, they probably are a play-in team of that area, where it's like almost at the point where maybe 1 or 2 wins will separate the teams from 8th to 5th potentially. That sort of philosophy of, or maybe projection of how it might go. It's not that the Knicks are at best a play-in team. It's just that's how they're playing, and that's where, and a lot of teams are doing well. But at best, they're not a play-in team. At best, they're better than that.
I agree with you. At best, they are better than that. The reason I wanted to look at the standings is because I wanted to see how many teams right now do I have 1,000% finishing better than the Knicks. And right now, it's the Nets, it's the Heat, it's the I can't trust Joel Embiid's needs. It's the Bucks. That's 3 teams. Okay. So yeah, there's an overreaction. Okay. We're gonna give out some game balls.
Let's do it.
Wow. The disrespect. So here behind the curtain, folks. I'm looking at Andrew's list here of nominees, and it's a predictable list of nominees because it's 4 bench players, because the only players worth a shit on this team: Derrick Rose, Obi Toppin, Alec Burks, and Taj Gibson, all of whom have been phenomenal. I'm giving my game ball to Kemba Walker, and I know Kemba Walker had 19 points combined in the previous 4 games before the Hornets game and looked dreadful in those 4 games, and he came back in. Or rather, in the second half, to start the second half, he couldn't pull the Knicks out of whatever morass they were in when they gave away the lead. And then in the fourth quarter, I think he took a couple shots and he missed them both, and the Knicks lost. Okay. For me, an entire city of people was looking at this guy and being like, he's done. He's over. He's finished. There is no more Kemba Walker. Put Kemba Walker in mothballs. Make him go away. We don't want to see him play basketball anymore. Elevate Derrick Rose into starting 5. Elevate Emmanuel quickly into starting 5. Whatever you're going to do. Walker's done. It was a waste of. It was a try. We failed. It is what it is. And he came back and he came out and he put on a show and looked like the Kemba of old. That to me, he's getting my game ball just for that alone. And all due respect to the other guys on this list, one of which, I mean, he didn't even write down the other guy who I would get. My God, Andrew, what are you doing here? Because I have a second place guy who I will shout out unless you want to give him the game ball.
I mean, first of all, I think it's really bold that you went with Kemba Walker, considering how he was lost for 2 of the 3 games. In the 3rd game, he did a great job. He was
horrible. Yeah.
Right. I mean, again, I feel like if someone's bad for 2.5 out of 3 games, maybe, yeah, I think that's probably fair considering how he barely played in the 4th quarter. But
he's like also, we just for a second consider the fact how much he's adjusting. And now that we know he could kind of, again, I just cited the number. He's 11th in 3-point percentage.
Listen, I think there's a difference between saying he's not washed, which we talked about earlier.
Yes, I know.
And saying he's deserving of a game ball. But that's your pick.
He's getting my game ball. Rice High School, shout out.
Fair enough. For me, I'm going to give it to Quickly.
That's the other guy.
Like that's the thing. It's talked about before how he struggled at the beginning of the year last year. First 7 games, abysmal. First 9 games this year, terrible. They were like this neck and neck, the same points, rebounds, assists, true shooting, field goal, three, like all of it. It was a parallel basically. And he comes out and in the last 5 games, 46, 45, 90 slash line, plus 42, excelling with the second unit, showing confidence and poise, working on his playmaking. Clearly it's picking up.
He's best player of the week.
There were moments in that Bucks game.
My game ball aside, best player of the week.
Right. So why I feel he's deserving of the game ball. But in that sense, it's like there were 2 possessions at the third quarter, end of the third quarter against the Bucks, where he pulled up from 3, and each time like, no, he's not going to do it, and he did it. And then the next time it was like, no, like I dare you to do it, but jokingly like, no, but also don't do that. And he does it, and I just scream because it's incredible what he's able to do, and it's just so much fun to watch him. Like it'd be one thing to see a 5-man unit, and 3 of the 5 guys are veterans who have clearly been around the block and are guiding 2 young players, but it's those 2 young players that then makes all of it feel even more worth it. One of them being Emmanuel Quickley. And so to see him shine in a role where it's like, you don't have to thrust him into the starting lineup. You can let him cook with the guys that he is used to doing that with.
Yep.
And that's really important. And so by doing that, I think it does so much for the team. So, and again, the defense, that's the other thing. Like there's a reason why the defense is really good. It is not solely because of him, but his point of attack defense, the effort that he shows consistently every single game, he does not take plays off, or at least certainly doesn't take nights off.
No plays
All
off.
of that is why I feel like he has to be deserving. And I'm really glad he has busted out of what is becoming a trend of early season struggles and then just jumping onto the scene.
I figured you'd pick Quickly, which is why I was okay taking. I wanted to listen.
It's respect. I get it. I hear you.
I was one of the people burying Derrick Rose. Or sorry, I buried Derrick Rose many years ago. Burying Kemba.
You weren't alone. I also buried him too.
Yeah, no, we've all buried some guys. And I just, I wanna give my respect. By the way, who was the player that I compared Obi Toppin to before the season started?
Was it Amare? I can't remember.
No, it was not Amare. It was a current player.
It wasn't John Collins. I can't remember.
You really don't remember this?
I don't. I know it was something that was more outrageous than the players I'm naming, but I can't remember.
He was named to the top 75 players of all time.
Recently. Oh, was it Anthony Davis?
It was Anthony Davis.
Oh God. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
It was Anthony Davis. Can I ask you to name all of the players in the NBA right this second? Did the Lakers play tonight?
They did. They beat the Spurs.
Okay, so then this stat should be updated. Name me all the players in the NBA right now averaging at least 18 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks per 36 minutes that are shooting at least 50% from the field. Can you please name me all of the players who are doing that?
I feel like this is going to be a trap. I feel like it's going to be a very small number.
The number is 2.
Okay. Is one of them going to be Carmelo Anthony?
No, one of them is not Carmelo Anthony.
I thought just because he's exploded on the scene, but the rebounds is a little high. 18, per 36, you said?
Per 36.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant per. Yeah. Well, one of them is Obi. I know that.
One of them is Obi Toppin.
The other one. It's not Luka.
I just said it.
I know, but is it Anthony Davis?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But still, that's per 36 is not necessarily the right benchmark to hold players to, but I'll let you live.
I called this, and you're not even giving me credit for it.
You didn't call it necessarily, but in the moment, you said per 36. These numbers.
Yeah, I specified per 36 when I said this nonsense shit about Obi Toppin.
I'll tell you what. I will give you, seeing as how we were 1/6 of the way through, I will give you 1/6 of the credit that is headed your way. How about that? It's a long year.
I should get 6 times the credit for this ridiculous prediction being right after a 6th.
I'm giving you 1/6. If you keep talking, I'll make it 1/7, and then we'll go to 1/8. So take what you can. Accept it. And let's move on.
And by the way, he's shooting 56% to Anthony Davis's 50%.
And what is he, like 80% around the rim? Something like that? Something
I don't think he's missed around the rim this year.
And Mitch has been phenomenal around the rim too. So fun stuff.
Obi Toppin, so good. What do we have left to do? Oh, detention. Goodness gracious. I can't give it to RJ. It just seems mean. Right?
Your call.
Nah, fuck it. What? Yeah. Julius. I said I went back and rewatched that game. I saw some shit I really didn't like. You gotten a lot of flowers in the last year since you came a year after you came to the team, since Tom Thibodeau came aboard and since Leon Rose and Worldwide West and everybody kind of helped resuscitate you. Gotten a lot of flowers, and it's been really, really nice to be the face of the New York Knicks and to get to sit up there on the dais and be the first guy at the mic after every game and talk about being a leader and accountability and culture and all of the shit that we've all drank up like Kool-Aid. And what that means now that things are going the way they are is coming out and putting your personal shit aside, including the fact that you can't make a tough shot at the moment. And the offense might not be best going through you anymore. And it means setting the example on defense. And it means being the guy who, by the way, Tom Thibodeau has said over the last few years, first guy in the gym, hardest worker, best condition, the whole thing. Be that guy on the court for every minute you're out there. Sprint the fuck back in defense. Even if it's not necessarily a situation where sprint back is going to get you anything. Do that for a game. Just one game. If you're the leader of this team that you say, and that everybody else says that you are. I have defended Julius Randle after game after game after game this season when people have been slinging arrows in his way from every which direction. And I think the Charlotte game was the first time where, again, I rewatched it and I'm like, I can't, I'm not sure how much longer I could defend the performance. So very long-winded way of saying, Julius Randle, you're going to detention this week.
I think that's fair, for sure. I think this isn't my person. I think one person could be Tibbs, argued. Listen, I think
him I'll defend to the death.
I know you will. I know. But that's the thing. I think I am arguing for no change with the starting lineup for right now. But I totally understand why other people are mad at Tibbs and want to make changes. I don't see it as being the need right now. I get what the last 7 games has looked like or whatnot. I understand why people are upset. I think there is room for criticism for Tibbs. To me right now, he is not the guy that I think should be in detention. And I don't think it actually should be one guy. I think it should be the entire starting unit.
That's the correct answer.
I'm putting everyone in the hurt locker. And it's the sort of thing here where, again, I know it feels like, even though we're two different people, to talk about Kemba as getting game ball and then putting him in detention, which is funny because it just goes to show how, like art, things can also be subjective. And
Jeremy,
but
you can do wonderfully on a test in one class and still go and throw a spitball at a teacher in another classroom.
That's true.
And wind up, paying the price after school.
That's a good point. So this is Kemba's spitball, so to speak. I laid out earlier about each of the players. I mean, the shooting is abysmal. The effort is the worst part. The defense might be second to that, but I think it goes hand in hand with where the effort's at. And I didn't say also much about Mitch. And look, I mean, Mitch has improved in certain areas. Others, he just hasn't. And the fact that
I know you've looked at the advanced stats.
Of course I have.
I know you've looked at the advanced stats, and the advanced stats on Mitch are fucking ugly.
They're bad. And I'm not trying to be like complete nerd analytics and all that. I'm looking at the eye test and at the stats as well, and it's not been great. And again, at a certain point, we have to be frank with ourselves. There is seemingly every game an injury scare, right? That is a big problem. When you have the guy that you are hoping to be your long-term starting five, and he's not able to play games, and if he is playing games, he just looks unhealthy. The hip issue is clearly bothering him. The ankle issue, there's some sort of is it kinesis? That is
kinesthetic. What are you trying to say?
Yeah, no, I was going to go over the kinesthetics, but like the kinesis, isn't that the noun?
I don't know.
All right.
Do I look like a smart person to you?
Good point. Things are connected. And I think that Mitch being plagued by these injuries is also not helping. But I don't just want to focus on him because he's one of 5 key members that has been disappointing this past week and even before then. But if we're honing in on this week, again, I tore the other guys. I felt like not necessarily a new one, but tore into them beforehand. I didn't really go as much on Mitch as I maybe should have at the time. So I'm just going to throw all of them, lump them all together. They all have to improve. That's the thing. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But it's the sort of thing where when you have a guy who's also supposed to be anchoring your defense, and I understand that, look, these other players are not doing what they're supposed to do, and it falls on Mitch's shoulders. But at the same time, Mitch is still responsible for issues on the defensive end. I have that. I know it wasn't this past week, but that Mobley drive and dunk is just seared into my brain. And
Mobley's really good.
Yes, 100%. But I don't know, man. It just something about it in terms of the quickness and the health and all these things with Mitch. And but we can have that conversation another day. The point is, for right now, the job's not getting done. The second unit's been flawless. The first unit just isn't getting it done, as I just said not even 10 seconds ago. As a result, they are the ones who are in the doghouse for me. They have detention.
Last 8 games, Walker, Fournier, Randall, Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, 124 defensive rating, actually 123.9, which would it doesn't even bother comparing that to the rest of the league because
there's no point
because it's 10 points per 100 possessions worse than anybody else. And if we want to go back to if you take out the first Orlando game when Orlando didn't bother to play, their year-long number is essentially like 122, 123, which is like not a real number. I don't know. Again, you've been correct twice. You picked quickly for the game ball. You picked the starting lineup for the detention. You are right both times. Prediction. So, oh boy, talk about getting in a hole. I'm now 0-3.
It's a long season.
It's getting late early.
A little bit.
It's like the Oscars where like you're the movie that's nominated for like 9 awards. The first 3 awards get it and they don't win. And it's like, I'm the Irishman this year, which is fitting because I'm an old Italian. I don't think they got any Oscars. Let's hope I can get an Oscar soon. Okay. So this week we are home 3 games, one of which we will be at, KFS will be at in a suite with some goodies, I believe. That'll be fun. Hopefully they don't fucking beat Orlando.
Yeah. No refunds.
Good call. Indiana, Orlando, Houston, all at home. And then next Sunday, Chicago. I should say, by the way, we're next week's episode with us will be dropping on Tuesday at midnight because we're going to be recording it on Monday night because it's Thanksgiving week. It's a little funky, and we're not going to kill ourselves with a very late Sunday recording. Sorry. I hope that's okay. But you'll have us for your travel holiday. Anyway.
Thank you to those of you who are not in America for understanding.
Get yourself some turkey. Okay, Jeremy, you're up.
I mean, this is the most just average, but I think 2-2 is a very safe benchmark here. Because think about it, right? I could say 3-1.
I was about to say
that they win against Orlando and against Houston, and then one of Indiana and Chicago. But I also have seen how they've played recently, and they lost at home to Orlando. They lost in Indiana. They nearly lost in Chicago. So a nice 500 over the next 4 games. That feels like just a percentage that they could do. And so it doesn't go one way or the other. It is the most bipartisan of the choices available to me. So I'm going to go with that, 2-2.
Who's the politician, the Connecticut senator who's like not a Republican, or he was a very long time senator?
Joe Lieberman.
There you go. I think you're Joe Lieberman.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
At least I don't deprive people of healthcare. But
that we know of.
Yeah, your turn.
I'm going to go with 3-1, and I'm going to go with 3-1 with confidence. Actually, I think they're going to come out and beat Indiana. I think they're going to come out and play really well. I think we've now seen the rock bottom portion of this part of the season. I could see them having another rock bottom portion later, and I'm not even going to say it won't be worse. But I think this sets up well for them to come out against Indiana and look good. I think Indiana is a team that, like, you could look good. Indiana could beat you, but you could also look good against Indiana. And Indiana, we should say, is, what are they right now? They are 6-8, 5-5 in their last 10. They have a positive, but despite being 2 games under 500, they actually have a better scoring margin than the Knicks. So if you go by advanced stats, they're a better team than the Knicks.
Knicks are at home and won, by the way.
Yeah,
recently they won.
Yes,
the other night as well. That was a really good game that they had. I can't remember who they were playing.
They're not a bad team. Like the bad start was fool's gold. That said, they beat Philly by 5.
That's what. Yep.
Is the game you're thinking of? I think the Knicks win this game, and I think they followed up with wins in or against Orlando and against Houston, and then I think I don't need to. Listen. If they went 4-0, wouldn't shock me, but I don't need to predict 4-0 to beat you because you picked 2-2, so I'm going to go with 3-1.
It's fair. Also, if you picked 4-0 and they went 3-1, then I would probably get the advantage because
tie goes to the
right. So
whatever, the person who won last time. Okay, this was a lot of fun. We managed to do this without Andrew. The cat's away. The mice played a little bit. We don't have a producer's corner. Is there any non-Knicks stuff that you want to mention before we go?
Non-Knicks stuff to mention? No, I don't really think there is at the moment. I guess it's. Do you, John?
No, not really. I should have probably thought of a producer's corner.
This is riveting podcasting, by the way. Of the two of us,
this is why.
How we have no clue.
This is just proof that we need Andrew. Oh, I know what I have. I have a producer's corner.
Okay.
Shang-Chi's on Disney Plus.
Oh yes, was supposed to see it this weekend. Did not get to it. That'll be next weekend.
Watched it in the theater with my daughter when it came out. Rewatched it on Saturday night because the Knicks have beaten me down. I needed a break from basketball for an evening, and I gotta say, I'm not sure that I'm where Bernard is. I don't think you're on that text chain, but he has Shang-Chi, I believe, 4th in his Marvel movie rankings at this point. His MCU movie ranking, I should be specific. I'm not sure I'm where he is, but that's a damn good movie. And if you have not, it sounds like you have not seen it yet.
I have not yet.
You should see it. It's really good. It's a very enjoyable watch.
I thought it was coming to on demand the day it came to theaters. And it didn't. And so I've been waiting, and then it wasn't theaters. I'm excited.
It's free. You could watch it. It's a wonderful time. Some great performances, and I am very excited to see what comes of the Shang-Chi universe moving forward. Which is very cool. Okay,
I've actually got one thing.
Oh, here we go.
Came to me. So we're both assuming the Knicks win one of the next 2 games against Indiana or against Orlando.
Sure.
I mean, who knows? But should that be the case, we got something fun planned. So stay tuned.
Giddy up. All right. That's going to do it for us. Jeremy, anything to plug before we go?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's a great plug. I will plug this podcast. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed your listening experience or you just want to be nice, leave us a review, leave us a rating. We appreciate it. It helps us do what we do. And of course, if you're listening to this and you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And also another reminder, there will be no post-game live stream there'll be no post-game live stream immediately following the Knicks game on Wednesday. I don't ever want to say that there will be no post-game podcast or eventual live stream, because you never know what's going to happen. They could win some crazy game and I might have enough energy in me to get home from the Garden after I've been drinking for several hours and attempt to put my thoughts cogently in front of a microphone. You never know, but probably there's not going to be a post-game on that one. But we will have other podcasts this week, as usual, drop on Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday. So check those out. And until next week, take care.